I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
I'm humble whenever I work. Being confident and being humble together, a big bowl of delightful. You know, so you can't, that's why, like, generally when I go up and do stand-up, I have nothing prepared. I walk up to stage knowing nothing. You know, when I direct a movie, generally I'm done by lunch or a little after lunch because I don't doubt myself. So I have it in my gut. It's all a gut thing, man. Sometimes I had a difficult scene in this movie I did where I actually storyboarded a scene. So I go in with great preparation, which allows me to be loose. It's freedom.
What is that craft? Like what?
I can't explain it. Here's the thing. For me, with comedy, I don't analyze it. You know what I mean? So you're looking for, like, real answers. There's a guy who ran a gig in LA, and I went out for coffee with him after, and he asked me questions like you're asking, and I went deep into all of it. I wasn't funny for the next 2 weeks. It's true. And I remember actually Jerry Seinfeld's involved in this because he put this book out written by this comedian called Letters from a Nut and More Letters from a Nut.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
And I picked them up. They were hilarious, and I got my comedy back. So I don't like deeply analyzing. I don't. I just know things inherently, and that's what I go with. I don't ask why. That's the point. The point is, if you inherently know that you have it, don't let anyone stop you. Adversity is your best friend. It makes you better as a person and as an artist.
But what kept you going when you thought of quitting?
Because I had nothing to fall back on. I dropped out of school. My dad always used to say, have something to fall back on. If I had something to fall back on and I kind of liked it, I might have fallen back on it. It's true.
All right.
Can I tell people that I do your hair?
Yes, you can. You could at Caroline's tonight. You could.
By the way, that's beyond Jufro.
That's what you know. You know what the secret is just never bathing and never combing.
Oh well, the first one bothers me.
We're far enough away. We're far enough away. You can avoid this.
The second one, that's your business. The combing, you know.
So Jeff Garlin, known for playing Jeff Green, Larry David's sidekick on Curb Your Enthusiasm, also known for playing Murray Goldberg on The Goldbergs. You've had like a 40-year stand-up career, I feel. Like, how long is your stand-up
30, it's going to be in June, 37 years that I've been a comedian.
37 years. And you're even doing stand-up this weekend at Caroline's?
Yes, I don't stop. I don't stop. Stand-up is my great joy.
So with so much TV experience, and again, 9 seasons, about to be a 10th season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which makes it, a mega hit in TV history. With all your success in TV and movies, stand-ups, do you feel like that's the core you return to?
Well, I get great joy equal to stand-up from Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't get the same. I love the Goldbergs, but I don't get the same kind of joy. Both shows are someone else's vision, but the vision of Curb Your Enthusiasm is similar to my vision. Larry and I are kindred spirits comedically. The Goldbergs is done in a style that's not me at all. I'm a storyteller on the Goldbergs in terms of I work for Adam Goldberg. I tell his story. Same thing for Curb, but the way I go about it on Curb is the same way I would go about it if Larry David wasn't involved.
Right. Well, and also, so the Goldbergs is totally scripted, every
Yes.
line,
And they're very precise about me getting it exact.
and Curb Your Enthusiasm is this almost like this amazing experiment in TV history, in that as opposed to the normal half-hour show being 30 pages of script, he just kind of gives
We're 7 pages of script.
7 pages of like outline, right? Like
It's an
he tells,
outline, yes.
What like does a typical scene look like on your
It looks
script?
like it's a paragraph, and it's just the story of the scene.
So like Larry says something that's a faux
Here,
pas.
I bet you I have some on my phone. Hold on. I'll
right.
actually read not from this season, but from a past season. I'll read a thing of an outline, and hopefully people will recognize. Ask me other questions while I'm doing this. Don't just sit there. Although you can edit.
How did you
can edit.
how did you know you were going to get involved in stand-up? So humor
Okay.
and comedy
All right,
became
well, this
your,
is really
your life.
important. From the time when I was a very small child, I remember making my parents laugh. And then in nursery school, I remember clearly making the other kids laugh and loving it. And then I was always the funniest kid in school, all the way through college. I went to the University of Miami. I dropped out to
Good for
become a
you.
comedian. What's that for
I'm
you?
anti-college, so good for you.
Well, I'm not anti-college. I'm pro-education, anti-degree. I'd love
Yeah.
to see how many people go to college if they didn't get a degree. You know, like you knew, because I look at college, like for my children the younger one today's his birthday, he's 19 today. He might go to art school, okay? But for me, and the older one is enjoying it. He took a gap year. He has a gap life. Yeah, you can laugh at that. No, but I told them both I would love for them to get a liberal arts degree, just to spend 4 years developing as a human and spending 4 years learning stuff. I don't care about the degree. So I'm pro.
Right, but you know, arguably one could say, well, you don't need to be in a school setting to read books for 4 years. Like, and a great example.
Oh, no, by the way, I agree. But if you can go to a decent school, there might be a professor who enlightens you. And also the fact of going out and living on your own at first.
Yes.
And meeting people. I think it's great for development. That's all. Because we're not developed. I don't like the I'm going to do this to get a good job aspect of college. So I'm anti-college that way.
And to your point about the degree, you can look at MIT, which has their entire course curriculum online. You can take every class. You can do the
you
homework.
really?
You could take the tests.
Well, by the way, my opinion then is that you should, hold on. Okay, good. All right, I'm hitting an area. Keep going.
Well, you don't have to get the degree, and you can get all the skills, and yet people are still willing to pay $250,000 for the degree, because just for the degree. That's how society has branded it. But anyway, you getting into stand-up, you dropped out of University of Miami.
Yeah, and so I started as a stand-up at 20. So I've been doing it 36 years. It'll be 37 years in, whatchamacallit, in... Hold on, I'm really close, that's all.
How did it go at 20? Your first time up, what happened?
I actually killed. Place was crowded. I went up, I did a monologue from the movie Stripes. I did an Adam West impression, and I told a joke. The joke was, I used to hate saying to my teacher, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she'd say, "I don't know. Can you?" Instead of "may I?" And I said, you know what? I should have just peed on her desk. It's not that, come on, man. It's
Okay,
not
so
that
break
good.
that down. Like, why wouldn't you do that
By the
joke
way,
now?
I've just found old emails from me and Shakira. I'm not making that up. Oh, I swear to God, from 2010, I'm not making this up. I have a couple emails here from Shakira and one from Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead.
And wait, why
That's
was
so-
Shakira emailing you?
We became friendly.
As one does.
Well, no, we played each other in an episode of The Wizards of Waverly Place.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Yeah, that's why you thank Selena Gomez in the acknowledgments in this book. So
well, that was a joke. Like she had nothing to do with the book, but I thought
I was wondering.
It said Selena Gomez and young people everywhere or something. It was just me making a,
So I have this book in front of me
outline.
called "Curbing It" by Jeff Garlin, and it so beautifully describes a season of you filming Curb and at the same time dealing with food addiction, and it was interesting to see all the food problems you were having around these very classic scenes that I remember from that particular season 7.
Right. So I have right now, I'm just grabbing an outline. This is from, let's see here. This is season 9, which was last season, show number 908. And give me a number 1 through 10.
3.
3. Okay. So I'm going to read scene 3 to you. It's too short. Give me another number. It's only one sentence.
6.
6. Okay. All right, great. 6 has got something here. Here we go. Turn it this way. Let's see here. Close on a champagne cork restaurant table later. Closing on a champagne cork popping. The group is back at the table eating. Marilyn uses a lot of ketchup. Larry remarks on it. You're using it like it's a sauce. She says, I like ketchup. It's a little excessive. That's why a lot of restaurants switch to packets. Funkhauser raises his glass and says, a toast to living it up. Marilyn gets a ketchup stain in her blouse, a big one. It's a go-home stain, which is exactly what she wants to do, but Funkhauser, intent on staying, insists it's not a go-home stain. Marilyn is unmoved and exit. Funkhauser has no choice but to follow, leaving Chelsea and Larry. Larry is not pleased. He looks at the expensive champagne. You know what this means? I'm paying for it. The champagne. That's it. So there you go. So I don't remember that scene.
So tell me what happens then. You get Larry gets a scene like this, or you get a scene like that.
Well, he doesn't get it. Larry writes it.
Writes it, yeah. So what happens with all the characters? Like, how do they then do the scene?
Well, by the way, very few people read the whole outline. Okay, and some people we don't even show the outline to. We just tell them what happens in the scene. Okay, I'm gonna do what you did. You did that earlier.
Yeah, there's evidence that if you see someone's phone, they pay less attention to you.
Is there evidence of that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, by the way,
Science.
It is quite the announcement. You have lunch with somebody and they go, I'm so happy to see you. And they put their phone down the table. I'm so happy to see you. But if this lights up or buzzes, go fuck yourself.
Right.
You know? So they're on well, look at us paying attention.
Yeah.
But I was focused on getting the outline. Now you got me complete. What was your question?
So you tell someone what's happening in the scene.
We tell someone that happened in the scene. We don't want to give too much information on a need-to-know basis, and then we shoot the scene. Then what happens is, like this past season, there's 3 producers. Well, actually, there's more. There's 3 executive producers. Myself, Jeff Schaefer is usually the director, and Larry, and we'll discuss this. The John Heyman and Carol Leifer are also producers on the show. And so a lot of times, well, it'd be the 3 of us, the 3 main ones, we will discuss the scene, what we can do better, what should we do differently. We discuss it. Jeff Schaefer will tell the actors what he wants, and then we do it again. Then we do it. I try doing every take something different.
And so, like, give me an example where you try different things, because it's all the lines are improvised, right? Except
They're
for what's
all
in
improvised. It's just
which is unusual.
I wish I had a scene. Well, tell me a scene from the show, and I can even think back to what I did.
Okay, the scene where.
By the way, I even know what I ate. No, not only in the scene, but like craft service. Like I'll remember that day.
Right, you describe it in this book.
I describe it in my book.
Every single scene, what you ate.
It is so completely true that I remember craft service, what they had that day, what we had for
3
lunch.
wheat bagels you get between takes.
Yeah, no, I really remember all. It's a weird thing, you know.
So okay, let's say take a scene. Okay, you have sex with the girl who's the character has sex with the girl who's mentally disabled.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And you're at the dinner.
What was her
and
name?
Susie's
Bobo?
starting to figure it out.
What was the kid? Do you remember that character's name? It was Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah.
Who played Funkhauser's sister, and so we're at the dinner table, Is that the scene you're talking about?
Yeah.
And she and I are flirting with each other while everyone's talking. So, they'll shoot me and I'll do some really subtle things, that you won't even notice, where I just nod slightly. And then the next take I might, do something. Then the third take I'll lick my glass and be really broad. But every take I'm trying something different because I want to give choices in editing. And it keeps it interesting. That's why I can compare working on Curb to stand-up, because it's always fresh for me.
Right, and you're responding to the environment.
I'm responding to the environment. Goldberg's, or anything else that I do for that matter, where it's a tight script, unless Patty Chayefsky wrote it, it's work. And Patty Chayefsky, I want to know every word, every nuance, get it right. But a generally like a half-hour comedy script for TV, which is 22 minutes, it's like, why are you so sacrilegious? I'm not religious about this, and I'm the one being sacrilegious, and it upsets them. If I want to improvise in a scene on the Goldbergs, I have to tell them ahead of time. And so I'm going to improvise here, and I have to tell the other actors because they don't know what to do; they get lost.
Do you get a sense then, like, hey, I've been doing comedy and humor for 35 years. I'm a producer on one of the best shows ever. Maybe my directions are good.
No, because that would be ego.
Okay.
And I recognize that, and I don't go down that path. Whoever I'm working with, I know what I know, you know what you know, and we're all good. I never think that. I never would say that. I do know what I'm... And by the way, there comes a point early on when I'm filming a movie or a show where I'm like, okay, this is not going to be creative, and I'm going to do the best I can, but I know that. So every day I'm not reminding people, okay, I did this one movie, I forgot the name of it, with Gerard Butler and Jennifer Aniston. And
I remember. Steve, what was the name?
Bam Bam was the character in that other one.
Oh, Bam Bam, yes, on Curb. But anyhow, you have to find the name of it.
We'll find it.
But we don't need to find it. It's not important. Point being is, I remember a scene I was doing. The Bounty Hunter.
Don't shoot me.
I remember a scene I was shooting, and it was and I improvised only this much. And this is a big studio film. And the director says to me, Jeff, this isn't Curb Your... And I already knew it wasn't creative. This isn't Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I just replied, I know. I know. That's the closest I've ever come to going, I do this, but I don't do that. I'm humble whenever I work. Being confident and being humble together, a big bowl of delightful. So you can't... That's why, like, generally when I go up and do stand-up, I have nothing prepared. I walk up to stage knowing nothing.
Okay, hold on to that one.
I will hold on to that.
Because I want to get to that.
But the confidence and humbleness, I'm saying, leads me there. I'm completely confident that I'm funny and I know what I'm doing. Like even when I improvise, as opposed to saying to someone, I don't have to say it. I know I got that,
So when in that scene with Bam Bam, you're trying all these different things, and all the other actors also, right? They're trying different things. Like maybe Susie Essman to say, who plays your wife on the show. Maybe she's like, what, or maybe Larry's looking around and getting nervous.
I'm actually the only one. Larry will do some experimenting, but I'm the only one who always does it different.
Okay.
Everybody else pretty much stays in their lane.
And then how does a scene how do you decide then? Okay, this is the scene. This was funny enough.
That's in editing.
Okay.
Oh, we feel like we've got it. It's just a feeling in your gut. And that's with, by the way, the enemy of comedy in filmmaking and television is playback. And you know what I mean? It's like watching things again, and you just know in your gut. Like I don't even need, when I'm directing something, I don't even like using the monitors. I like standing off stage or to the side and hearing it, most importantly, hearing it and seeing it. And I know if I have faith in my DP that I've got what I want. So I have it in my gut. It's all a gut thing, man.
Like if you feel like, oh, I'm laughing, like this is funny.
Yeah. Well, no, then I know it's working.
Yeah.
But there's a feeling where you're like, we got it. When I direct a movie, generally I'm done by lunch or a little after lunch because I don't doubt myself. And if I have it, I don't need to shoot more. And the only time I shoot inserts, of little things like if we're talking that we need someone, my AD will say, we need an insert of the bottle. I go, you shoot it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't want to even deal with that because that's just, And every once in a while I need it, but I don't use the things that other people might think they need or be insecure about it.
What do you think directors go in thinking that they need?
Well, no, director, like I'm the kind of director that when I'm directing something or producing something, I'm editing it in my head. So when I've gotten to the point of, I got it, we're good, I believe that, I think other and by the way, when I'm directing, I got a shot list. Sometimes I had a difficult scene in this movie I did dealing with idiots about Little League baseball parents, where I actually storyboarded a scene. So I go in with great preparation, which allows me to be loose. It's like when I did stand-up on Letterman. I would work that set. I would drive around New York and do it 10 times. So when I get there, I'm not thinking about it. It's freedom. The best way to be an actor is to know your lines so well that if you're doing a scene and you're thinking about what you got to say, you're not as good as you can be. So you want to be as good and loose as you can be.
So
preparation is the key.
So with Curb, you're not prepared in the sense that you don't know what lines you're going to say.
But that's a different type of thing.
Okay.
Curb, it only makes it better if I'm not prepared. As a matter of fact, quite often, they'll start rolling for a scene, and I'll say to Larry, what's this scene about? And he goes, I don't know. And then we have to cut and have someone come over and explain what we're doing. It's happened before.
I always sort of feel watching it, two things. One is when you guys are laughing, when you and Larry are laughing, they're like really...
hardcore real laughs.
Which is not seen in TV.
Well, when we first started doing that, which has happened naturally, and including it in the cuts, we realized that I would actually go as far to say, outside of like Carol Burnett, where they would laugh, they'd break. But I'm talking about characters in a show, in a comedy, that are saying funny things to one another. And in our case, it's a funny situation and a funny thing we're saying. We're not saying jokes. Well, if it's funny and you're improvising it, why wouldn't you laugh? So like when I watch a show like Big Bang Theory, and these people are saying jokes that are written by professional writers that are clever and funny, although I do think clever can be the enemy of comedy, but they're funny lines, and then they have no reaction to one another. That's why I can't watch those shows. I know people love them, and by the way, I get the appeal of, I said Big Bang Theory. The characters are fantastic, the situations are, but that style, I don't dig that at all.
So I always get the impression that the other thing I get the impression of is that you guys are improvising until Larry gets mad. In many cases, you try to find.
No, he only gets mad. He never gets mad.
Mad at the character. I mean.
Oh, the character.
Yeah,
no. We just keep going until it has a natural ending.
And when J.B. Smoove entered into the scene, I guess in season 7 or...
You're asking me, I couldn't tell you, but it was the one where the hurricane survivors came to move in with Larry.
And his improvisation also between him and Larry is like amazing. That can't possibly be scripted.
Well, none of it's scripted.
Yeah.
No. It's and truly, J.B., what he says surprises Larry. Like he has no idea. Like all those phrases that he says, lamping and all that stuff. Larry is not...
Ejaculate.
Ejaculate, yeah. Ejaculate, that was a good one. There's no preparation for it. You don't know that he's going to say that.
And so Larry...
So when you laugh or you're like, what the hell? It's real.
And Larry's playing off of that too.
Yes.
Like he's must be great at improvising.
Yeah, Larry's, yeah, very much so.
So this kind of gets back into how you started, because you were doing stand-up, but you also got into improv.
I was doing Second City, yeah.
So you moved to Chicago too?
And what I did was, yes, I moved to Chicago to do Second City and stand-up. Nobody was doing that, that was also the thing. And it was a weird time for me, because in the stand-up world, I was respected by my peers, but I wasn't the audiences were confused by me.
Why is that?
Well, because I was risk-taking, and I was doing things that I thought were funny. They weren't very hip then.
Like what risks were you taking?
I don't know how to even say that. I don't even know how to reply. I just know I wasn't like other comedians.
Can I break down one of your jokes that I've seen?
Sure.
And
I'll
you can tell me.
I'll tell you when that came in, to my.
So it's more recent. You're talking about. I thought it was fascinating. You start off by saying you love your kids so much. You would do anything for them. So that's why you don't give a shit what the audience thinks.
Oh, that's old. That's
okay.
Not recent. That's from. And then I went to my cousin's class for career day.
Yeah. But that beginning there, I love it because you're establishing yourself. Like no one's gonna argue. Oh, he loves his kids. It's so sweet. And then you say, and that's why I don't give a shit. So you're kind of warning the audience already. Don't even bother to mess with me because I don't care.
Right.
And then you get into the joke. It was like a perfect kind of setup to get into the joke.
So I can analyze that. Now, mind you, until I had my children, in all sincerity, it mattered more. Like I would be more, if I had a bad show in terms of the audience thinking, I would take that on myself and feel like, now there's nights where I go up and I've got a groove going, but the audience isn't so good. And by the way, when I say an audience, Jerry Seinfeld and I have a great long-time argument about this, disagreement. He feels that it's always the comedian's fault. And I feel that an audience is made up of people's DNAs, the way they were raised, where they were raised, what they had for lunch, if they're taking care of themselves, what their love life is like, what their job is like, what they did that day. And you're throwing these strangers into a room together. So you're bound to get any kind of reaction. So I go up, I know I'm funny. Like I know when I hit the stage I'm funny. But by the way, there are nights where the audience is fantastic and I don't have a groove. That one still kills me. That happens once a year, twice a year, and that's very depressing. But the audience thinking, it happens, So if I go up and I've got a groove going and they don't dig me, I'm a big bullet too bad. And by the time I've left the stage, I've even forgotten. And that started with having children, and they were the priority in my life.
But I like how you specifically. It's almost like you set it up so you warn the audience that they can't affect you. It seems like
it wasn't
calculated.
conscious.
Okay.
It was just me being in the moment.
And so then it's class day, and the first funny premise is that there's like a doctor and then a fireman. So these two people who are like saving lives, and then you go up there and they kind of tell.
But also, little children are well aware and look up to firemen,
right?
And they're well aware of the doctor. They've been to the doctor. A stand-up comedian? Come on.
Right. So you go up there and you say, "Well, I tell stories," and you start to panic because you see your son reacting.
This is a true story, by the way.
Yeah, right. So you see your son reacting, and you're like
it's
bombing.
It's my niece. My kids weren't born yet.
Okay.
It's my first cousin, and
And you're panicking because she thinks you're bombing in front of a bunch of little kids.
I am bombing, and then I cut to Booger and Duty, and I kill.
Yeah, and but then that was funny. That punchline, Duty, and the wave of laughter comes in, and you're winning these kids. But then what was brilliant was then this kid comes up to you. You said the further joke is this kid comes up to you and say, "Listen, that I don't know if you stole that Duty joke, but you're on the road. I'm just a kid. I can only stay here. That's mine." And
that was written. That was written, and then I said no problem. Yes, that part I wrote because that's absurd that a class clown would tell me, you do it out there, but just don't do it here, man. It makes me look bad. Yeah. And then there was a Lenny Bruce reference that I threw in there. I can't remember what it was, but
there's some writing. It's not totally unprepared.
Well, that was writing, and the other story I had told before, so that was prepared. That came from I think my HBO half-hour comedy hour, that I filmed a number of years ago.
And so. Where there in that joke, do you think, where's the risk taking? I'm just curious.
In that joke, the first time I did it, I had no idea where it was going to go. I'm just telling a story. And also, that last joke at the end, most audiences wouldn't get that joke and didn't get that joke. The class clown coming up to me. It was too hip for the room. Here's the thing. When I go on stage, I want to communicate. I want the audience to dig me. I want it to be a wonderful experience. I don't need it to be.
But like you said,
So-
you were telling a true story. Like this actually happened, and as opposed to, let's say, many comedians, let's even say Seinfeld included, they'll write down material, and
Right.
that's the material they perform. It may or
Right.
may not be true.
Right.
Sometimes, often, it's not true. How do you personally take a true story and find the funny in it, or do you think it just happens naturally after all these years
Well,
of
here's the
experience?
thing. Like last night, I started talking. Okay. So, by the way, I wanted to finish a thought that I had because I think it's pretty interesting. I think it is. Because what happened to me at Second City and down the block was Zany's. It's still there. Both are still there. So, in the stand up world, I was respected by my peers for doing different types of things. I sort of was on the term alternative comedy, kind of started with myself, Janine Garofalo, Bob Odenkirk. There was a group of
Can
us.
you define it? Alternative comedy?
No, because it's bullshit.
Okay.
It was just basically, it was. I remember where it came from. I can tell you the exact moment. I lived with Janine Garofalo. We were roommates, and we were watching MTV, and I think it was Pearl Jam. I'm just thinking, we're watching, and I go, now, music is so defined by, categories and types, styles of music, genres, whatever, that comedy, you go to a comedy club. You don't go to a music club and one night it's Mozart, the next night it's the blues. And that's kind of like what in the world of comedy it is. There's nothing. So we said, I wish there was alternative comedians. I can tell you without a doubt that that's where that started. No doubt. Because we were the first ones doing that type of stuff. I know that. There was a good David Cross, Laura Keitlinger, Colin Quinn. There was a group of us that were different, edgier, but there is no such thing as alternative comedy anymore. It's bullshit.
But I still want to
There's just
understand what's the risk taking that you guys were doing that other comedians were
Well,
not
other
approving of?
comedians were pandering.
I see.
Completely pandering. And they would guide their acts to what they thought the audience would like. We did what we thought was funny. That's the same with Curb. Curb's a great example of the same exact thing. Larry David and I, when we first started Curb, the idea that our show would become iconic, not even anywhere in our minds. We didn't even think anyone would like it. We thought there's no way people are going to find this funny because we're laughing too hard and we're having too much fun and our sensibility is not mainstream.
And by the way, I think you might not give yourself enough credit. You pitched originally the idea of Larry David returning to stand up, but filming also the behind the scenes of him.
Yeah, and
that
was my
became the
idea.
series.
And that became the series. I approached him with the idea. I didn't go to the Olsen twins. And and that's how it started. And then when we were filming, first day of filming, which was at the HBO offices when we were pitching the executives about Larry doing a special, he said to me, well, would this be great to do as a series? And in my head, I was like, yeah, great. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll be starring in a series with Larry David. Like, that's going to happen. Wow.
But that reminds me of your character, Jeff Green, on the series, which is that you kind of just, like Larry says something and you say, yeah, let's do it. Like your character sort of like goes along with whatever.
Goes along, but I also.
And smiles to it.
The purpose of my character, I've been a lot more active the last couple of seasons, especially this season, in terms of being involved in the comedy. My character, for the most part, is about exposition. Like my guy will set up what's going to happen for Larry through me.
Right, like you got to meet George or Jason Alexander.
We have a scene where we're clarifying what's going on. That's unfortunately me. My best stuff on Curb throughout the years, without a doubt, cutting room floor. There are some scenes. There was a scene of Larry and I waiting by the cemetery, sitting outside the cemetery. We're waiting for Shelley Berman and Richard Kind, and they're late to the cemetery because they wanted to do a test run of Richard driving Shelley to the airport to know the best way possible. And Larry and I filmed this scene outside the graveyard. I'm more proud of that scene than anything I've ever done on Curb. It's not in the show. It never got cut because it's always for what's on story. That's the sacrifice. What's on story?
So even though it was really
So
funny,
the
like,
only
conversation,
stuff that generally makes the show with me is stuff that helps move the story along.
so
Not-
you
But wait, I wanted to just finish the one
Yeah.
idea. You're a question guy. Hold on one second.
Go
Because
ahead.
seriously, I love talking about this. So it's at the comedy clubs, I'm respected by my peers, but the audiences are confused by me. Okay, I'm doing things okay. Whereas at Second City, when I walk out in front of the audience in the ensemble, the audience loves me. The second I come out stage, they're like, "We love that guy. He's funny and everything he said. We love him." But my peers didn't respect me.
what do you think is the difference?
Well, I just wasn't. I think that it's developing because eventually both happened in both. Audiences dig me and my peers dig me. I hope. Well, I don't. I'm sure. Whatever. But in terms of as an improviser, I hope I'm respected. I think I am, but I know I'm not respected. So, so I didn't have. So it was a weird time for me, growth wise. I was in my mid-20s.
And it strikes me also like you worked in the box office, I guess, at Second City with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
You were roommates with
Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, Conan O'Brien.
And Janine Garofalo.
So often,
and Jon Stewart sublet from me.
And you also directed his special. His
I directed Unleavened. Jon Stewart's Unleavened, and Dennis Leary Lock and Load. But the thing with both of them is I didn't direct the cameras. We went on the road together. I developed the show.
What does it mean, develop the show?
In other words, I would open for them on the road. We go on a tour, and then after my set, I'd sit down and I'd write notes about their stand-up and the show, and I would help them develop their set. For both of them, say, directed on the stage by Jeff Garlin. And then Beth McCarthy Miller, great director, lovely woman, directed Jon Stewart's, and Ted Demme directed Dennis's. But creatively, I had more input than they had.
So it strikes me, though, that even in the beginning of your career...
And that's where Curb came from, by the way. It was the idea, I said to Larry when I was pitching him on, it wasn't even pitching, we were at lunch. I said, if you ever want to do a special, I think it should be the making of a special because of the things I've seen developing Jon Stewart's and Dennis Leary's. So it should be behind the scenes of you developing a special, and then when we get to the end, you don't have to do the special because that's the special. You can back out, and that's
funny.
what we did, yeah.
I feel like yours and Larry's humor are very similar, kind of, again... almost cringeworthy, like this, you're the classroom joke, just, where like, a doctor, a fireman, and then me, like there's like that cringe, that scary moment right there.
But Larry is so much better than I am that it kind of blows my mind. I worked at a movie with Eddie Murphy. He's so much funnier than I am. It kind of blows my mind because I have great confidence in my skill. But like Larry David, I'll give you an example of a Larry David premise that he wrote. This is one of my favorite bits he ever did. This is stand-up. What if there were answering machines in the Old West? The sheriff leaves you a message, and then, hey, Larry, me and we're going after the Dalton gang. We've got a posse set up. Come on down. We'll be at the old saloon at whatever. And then Larry leaves a message 2 days later. Sheriff, I missed your call. I'm so sorry. I would have loved to have been on the posse. I couldn't make it. Whatever. Brilliant. I mean, just the idea of that, taking every aspect of it, the simplicity of it, I'm in awe of it. And then he takes things like what it would be like masturbating with 103-degree temperature, all these different thoughts, I mean, he's just, I have moments of brilliance. He's just brilliant.
And he it seems like you're more of a storyteller also than he's
very
making up
much
these
so.
premises.
And also I'm more about... I don't try and make scenes funnier. I try and make them better and more real. So when Jeff Schaefer, Larry David, and I get in a circle after a circle, we hold hands. No, we stand together after. I'm thinking in terms of what works in terms of the scene being good, not in terms of. And Jeff Schaefer's always thinking about how do we make it funnier. That's like that's his strength he brings to it. So we all bring things. So I'm about storytelling. Look, I'm a big, like Larry and I went to go see Lawrence of Arabia. It may have been his second time seeing it, third, after as a young man seeing it in the theater. I've seen the movie now 30 times, I study film. I watch, all the great masters. I watch all Truffaut's movies or Billy Wilder. I've seen them all many times, and I can tell you the nuances, how they cut something, Hitchcock, all that. He doesn't care about that. You know what I mean? That's not where he just does what he does. I do what I do, but I'm someone who thinks about, storytelling and the overall feel of it.
He must be thinking of storytelling too, though, to write, though, even
well,
that
he's writing a
6-page
story. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. I'm not saying the dude's devoid of storytelling, but that's not as much. There's only one person I can compare Larry David to, and I think you'll get it just based on your hair. Nat Hiken. Do you know who Nat Hiken
No,
was?
I don't know.
Nat Hiken created 2 television shows, Sergeant Bilko and Car 54, Where Are You? And if you can watch any of them, if you have access to them, there's some DVDs, not that people buy DVDs.
I remember Sergeant Bilko as a kid.
Bilko with Phil Silvers. But anyhow, what was amazing about those shows is it was like, I remember on The Tonight Show how there'd be a person with the dominoes and they'd hit them and they'd go all in different directions and then they'd meet together at the end. But how they went all these different directions, but then came together. That's how Nat Hiken wrote, and that's how Larry David writes.
Well,
where you don't know, it goes all over the place and then it all comes together.
And it seems like and this is where I think there's an interesting thing about Larry David, which is he's actually a great leader and motivator of people. Like, think about the way he did that for Seinfeld. That was the way to keep all of the 4 main characters engaged on every episode, was to involve them in a storyline, which was unusual.
I don't think that he did it for that reason. I think that's just the way he wrote. He's not a big, what's the B story? So often when I've been involved in the development of shows, writing on shows, acting on shows, everyone gets all caught up. What's the B storyline? What's the A storyline? Well, the B's big. He doesn't work that way. I don't work that way. You make a funny, interesting half hour of television. That's all your job is, period. A story, B story. People, that's not, And by the way, Larry would do A, B, C, and D. And they'd all meet at the same time, The point is with Larry and I, there really aren't any rules that you have to follow, because there's exceptions. Yeah.
So again, when you were starting up, let's say you're getting your skills, you're around all these great people, which must have helped also, like Colbert and Jon Stewart and Janine Garofalo and Conan. Where do you think you? Again,
Amy Sedaris was a waitress at Zanies when I was a young comedian. I remember her coming up to me, I'm taking classes. Good. And I actually was condescending. I went, good for you.
So
Not
again,
knowing that I'm talking to someone who's going to be one of my best friends, but also someone who is not only one of the funniest people, just a true, like I know, there's a book by Jimmy Heath called I Walked with Giants, about jazz in the 40s and 50s when he played with these people. I have walked with giants, such as Amy Sedaris and Larry David.
And do you think that's what's helped you with telling a story, finding the funny across the story?
No, I don't look for the funny. See, here's the thing. I'm gonna do it through acting. Okay? Because forget the writing aspect. Well, the writing aspect is I just write what I write. And as long as I'm real, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to give you an example with actors. So you approach a scene, it's a comedy, okay? And you audition for the scene. If you put a spin on anything, you're ruining it. You're taking away from the funny. It's too much. A writer's job is to write a situation and something that if you play true to it, the comedy will be there. If you're inherently funny, there's going to be extra comedy because maybe the way you say it naturally works. But the number one mistake that an actor can make or a writer can make is trying to be funny.
Or maybe a stand-up.
or a stand-up. You have two levels. There's two levels. There's the craft, and there's someone who's got the magic or the skill. Like it's there. If you don't have the magic or don't have it to a great degree, practice the craft. And the craft of being a good stand-up, of being a good actor, is about being true to the writing, being true to the material. There's a term I have for actors who bring too much. I call them enemies of comedy, because they're ruining the scene by making it about them, not spinning things. And you don't need to do that. I met Neil Simon a couple times, and I was talking to him, and he said the minute an actor would come in and try and be funny with his stuff, they weren't getting the job. So I think that if you're really funny, that comes in the door with you. And if you're not really funny, just be honest. That's it.
What parts of the craft of stand-up, which clearly led to, the later success and writing and so on, what parts of the craft did you feel you had to develop in the beginning?
Well, it's not even a matter in the beginning, because in the beginning, who I am now as a comedian is it's recognizable, from where I started, but I didn't know that I could just, the most structured I am now is I might have an outline that I improvise from. Like when I film my special, I'll have an outline.
That was just an outline.
No, I will. Anytime I've done a special, there's an outline. So that's as close as I get to the point of not having anything when I go up. The craft is, for me now, that when the audience isn't great, I know I can do that hour and they'll think they saw a really good show. They didn't. It wasn't as good as they think, but I'll make them think it was.
What is that craft? Like what?
I can't explain it. Here's the thing. For me, with comedy, I don't analyze it. You know what I mean? I know things, like I said, about the actor not trying to put a spin on it. That's about as far as I want to deep. So you're looking for like real answers. Like when I say real answers, not me avoiding, but I don't know the answer. I once went out. There was a guy who ran a gig in LA, and I went out for coffee with him after. And he asked me questions like you're asking. And I went deep into all of it. I wasn't funny for the next 2 weeks. It's true. And I remember actually Jerry Seinfeld's involved in this because he put this book out written by this comedian called Letters from a Nut and More Letters from a Nut.
Oh, yeah, I read those.
And I picked them up. They were hilarious, and I got my comedy back. So I don't like deeply analyzing. I don't. I just know things inherently, and that's what I go with. I don't ask why.
I want to bring Iris up for a second, because Iris Barr has been also on Curb. Famously, she was a
the Orthodox
super
Jew.
Orthodox Jew.
She was stuck as the episode. She was in a
ski
few
lift.
episodes, but the ski lift is the famous episode that she's in, and she's a perfect example. Now, Iris is in fact funny, and Iris can be broad funny. You'll do some broad things, not on Curb,
Right.
but she can. But she knows what she's funny about her, and that she auditioned for the part. She walks in the door, and she's true to the moment. There wasn't a moment when we were filming that any scene with her, that the fellas got together, or the fellas and the gal, and went, oh, what do we do? It was like, she was not our concern. The concern was, all right, what do we have to do to make this better, having nothing to do with her, because she was perfection. She was true to her character. She was the character.
And the premise of the scene itself was funny, right? She has to jump off a ski lift.
Larry David wrote it damn well. It's funny. He's not going to even give me an advance copy of the outline.
I had no idea about the rest of the episode.
Right?
So when I went to audition, I got one line and said, "You're on a ski lift. You can't be there after sundown." And so that was.
Yeah,
and I remember walking in and auditioning with Larry that day, and then when we were on the set and that edible underwear came out, I had no idea what the edible underwear was about. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, "What is that?"
You played true
Yeah.
to what that character's reaction to be edible underwear. She didn't think, what can I? Here's the thing that people do, and these are usually unfunny people, not untalented, but they don't have the great comedic skill, and that is they'll think, what can I say that's funny back to them? As opposed to, it was hilarious because of her outrage and confusion. She played outrage and confusion, which is what someone would do in that situation.
Right, and were you and not to say you were overthinking, but were you thinking right at the beginning of the scene, oh my gosh, I know it's going to be improvised. I have to be outraged and.
No, I think I when I get into a character, I'm really like just playing the scene. And when we're connected, you're not in your head because I don't know what's going to.
She's got a calmness about her, okay? Yeah. A great calmness about her. And you don't react. See, all right, Richard Lewis, I'm outing him here. I love him. He's my brother, and he's actually one of my idols. But early on in the years of Curb Your Enthusiasm, he would write notes to himself about the scene, what he wanted to do on a card, and he'd hide it on the table. And Larry and I would look for it and take it away, which led to outrage on his part. But you don't want to do that. And Richard's been great on the show. His best work, I think, has been even recently because he's so present and being present in the moment when the situation happens. And look, it's I'm not saying it's easy, but it's so much more enjoyable and natural and productive when you're just there.
So as people say that always, like, oh, just be present, be in the moment. What does that mean to you when you're on stage, say, what does that mean? What do you...
That means last night at Caroline's, I'm hearing the thump of music. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I say, is it coming from there? And the woman sitting to the right goes, yeah, it's coming from here. I go, open that door. Let's see what's behind there. And she opened the door, and it was like the bar area. And then they came in and said, oh, we're sorry, we'll turn it down. Well, we'll turn it, but they said, we'll turn it down for you. I go, how considerate. And then I did a whole thing about how when the shows go on, they start dancing in the bar area, all the employees. And then actually people come down, and it becomes a very popular disco at night while the shows are going. I went on this whole riff, which doesn't sound very funny right now. Thank you for laughing, Iris. But you meant it. Yeah. You know where I was going. But the point is, I'm in the moment. I'm not like, oh, what's my next bit?
You're not just trying to get back to your material.
I have listening skills with the audience, which is what I do. If I hear something in the back or someone goes, oh, I hear a sound, I'm stopping everything I'm doing and going, why would you make that noise? What's going on? There's a natural curiosity to the world. You have to have a curiosity when you improvise, when you act, as to what's going on around you,
I don't think you can improvise if you're in your head. I mean, I think it's impossible. Well, you have to listen. Otherwise, how can you, you're not.
Yes, but that's why so many people fail at improvising. Right. Like there's a game called Switch, which is two people start out, they get either a first line of dialogue, and then they start doing a scene. Someone yells, freeze, taps somebody out, takes this thing, and then takes the scene, this is the key phrase, takes the scene in a new direction. So many people look at it as, I'm going to tap them out, I got to think of something funny to say in that moment. I learned from, I remember the person who inspired me the most when I was a young actor at Second City was Dan Castellaneta, Homer Simpson. And Dan wouldn't even really pay attention to what was going on, and he'd yell, freeze. And then he'd go out and he would just take on a character and start talking.
And so you wouldn't think beforehand what he was going to do?
So when I don't want to look like I'm showing off, but if I could and not look weird, I'd face the back of the room and just yell, freeze. Get up there, boom, and I'm just going to start talking like a person, or there's a situation that I create. I'm not trying to be clever. I think, by the way, I know this is getting all so analytical about comedy. I think the number one enemy of comedy for me, besides it goes hand in hand, cleverness. When you try and be clever, you're never going to be funny. You might be clever. That's why they call certain comedians humorists, because they're just clever. They're not funny.
People always used to describe Larry David as a comedian's comedian. That's what why you always what you see about descriptions. What does that mean? Like that almost sounds like a negative, like a double negative.
No, it means, and Larry David, when he was a stand-up, was a comedian's comedian. And only through Curb has he become more like an iconic figure, It means that your style of comedy and choices are only funny to other comedians. Like you're playing to a crowd, like it's being a baseball, like you can't use sports because success would mean success no matter what, but it's like an audience isn't going to go, oh, that isn't going to laugh for the same reasons that a comedian laughs. That's the area I lived, not as extreme as Larry. Larry would make choices that would make only comedians laugh. I don't know. I don't know how to expound on this stuff without sounding like an idiot.
No,
or losing my humor.
No, that sounds good.
What I loved when working on Curb was, unlike a lot of the half-hour network sitcoms that I did before, I felt like Larry wanted everyone around him to shine and be funny.
Oh, very much
And there's
so.
really no ego involved in that show. And it was always about lifting up. I mean, and you're always playing. There is no. Sometimes he's the straight man. Sometimes the other person. It's constantly this dance.
Right.
When otherwise, when I do network sitcoms, suddenly the star wouldn't like that another person had a funny line, and the writers would change it, and suddenly your funny line was gone.
You would see that happen. 'Cause
Oh,
that's
yeah, I
how
saw it on
sounds
many a
cliche.
show I've done.
Happened to me.
Suddenly the line disappears, and
I can remember two really big circumstances. Also, where I improvised something and suddenly it was in the mouth of the star.
And how did you get the feeling that Larry wanted everyone to shine? Like, was there anything specific?
I just think that, when I came in, he lets you do your thing. If you're being authentic and real, what I mean? It's encouraged, and there's really no feeling of ego. You're just you're playing the scene, playing the characters. And it turns out that the storylines are so brilliant and everyone is part of it. So it really is kind of I don't want to say team effort, but it is. I mean, it's all serving the story, and everyone.
You serve the story. You serve the show.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And when Larry doesn't like something, he comes over, and I can see it in his face. He makes a face. I call it the lemon face, like he's been sucking on a lemon. That's what it really looks like. And only twice did he ever walk up to me after a take, and he was muttering swear words because the other actor was not doing it. So.
Well, when you were, what was so brilliant also in the arc of the entire series, when you had that Seinfeld reunion season.
It was kind of meta in a weird way.
Just like in Seinfeld, when they were pitching a show about nothing, that was the first time my mind was blown by a sitcom being meta.
Right.
And then it happens again in Curb. So clearly Larry has this meta way of thinking.
No, yes, you're right, but it's not conscious. I don't even think he knows what meta is. I'm being serious.
But when Jerry and that whole cast was on the set and you were doing your thing, and you had been kind of Larry's sidekick throughout, I'm just curious. This is a stupid question. Did you ever feel any jealousy of Larry and Jerry's rapport while you were?
Well, I never
stupid
was on.
Question.
No, it's not a stupid question. It's actually a good question because my character that season specifically was kind of pushed back. I had plenty of moments, but especially when we were on the Seinfeld set, I had very little to do. I was more there as a producer than I was an actor. But two things. Number one, I was never on Seinfeld, never asked to audition for Seinfeld, and that makes Larry angry today. It's like, as much as I regret that, he regretted it too. He was like, it just was very upsetting. But that being said, here we are on the actual Seinfeld set, and I'm a producer, and I'm giving notes, and I'm involved creatively with it. I watched in awe.
Was this like a bucket list moment?
I don't have any bucket list.
Okay. So go on.
I live life as if I do my bucket list's already. I don't fuck bucket list. Anyhow,
title of your next book.
No, yeah. That's not it's hard to get a good placement with the title of fuck bucket list. But anyhow, I'm on the set and it's just a collaborative effort, and I'm standing back watching, and also I'm watching those actors, that group, do their thing. And Larry even said to me, he goes, like he stood, he goes, this is where I used to stand. And then this is where I used to sit. And then I stood behind him when he did that, while he's watching the scene, the way he sat, where he sat, because we shot on the set, on the stage where they shot Seinfeld. So I was the exact spot right behind him. So to me, there was so much joy in all of that. Jealousy? No. Jealousy, if I'm not asked to participate, even here's where there's jealousy. I think you shouldn't be around when we do this season. Yeah, you'll still get paid, but go home. I'd be very jealous of everyone who was involved, no doubt about it, but that didn't happen.
So I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have a
hard out.
Yes,
hard out. And I tell you what, I'll go to 12:07.
All right, good.
Okay.
Well, what impresses you the most about the upcoming season? I hear it's
What I like about it, see, for me, the Fatwa storyline, this is just a personal thing. I thought it was funny. It was too big for me, my taste. I love the minutia when Curb Your Enthusiasm goes into the small subtleties. That's more my style. That's the way I like things. I like things small and believable. And, and so this season has been maybe my favorite season we've ever done. And this is all I can say about it. Something that has happened to all of us, and in different ways. We all have said after the reaction to that, in our anger, I wish, and Larry does. That's all I can say about this season. I love it. I love the people we have on it, all the performances. Actually, I would say it's more comedy gold, which is the most hackneyed term, but more wonderful stuff in a scene than I've ever experienced.
And is there going to be a season 11, do you think?
I do not. But ask me that after season 9. I'll tell you not 10. Ask me every
because after season 8, I asked Carol Leifer, because she was on the podcast, and she thought that's it. There's no season 9.
Yeah, she was in season 8, I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah, she was. I think she was the mother of the Kool-Aid kids, where Larry dropped his pants, which is one of my favorite moments. Where I told Larry that he had to pretend that he's wearing women's panties because Susie found panties in my glove compartment. Anyhow, point being is I always think it's the last. So I think it's the last, and that's sincere. Don't know. Could be another.
After 10 seasons, is there ever a danger of the characters trying to be caricatures of what they know the audience has loved?
No, because we don't give a shit. Just like you said in my stand-up. Larry David is loaded, okay? He's rich. The only reason he comes back every season is because he has something he wants to say, he wants to express. And there's no way that I'm going to ever become a caricature. I'll leave the show before I do that. But in the world of Larry David, that's not possible.
And when you go back from such highs of that to stand-up, and I don't mean it as going back, that's the wrong phrase, but what drives
Creatively, my stand-up is more creative than Curb for me. So there's no...
So you just love it.
I love it. There's no drop-off. There's a drop-off when I go to the Goldbergs. And when I say drop-off, I mean I'm at the highest of my skill level and creativity doing Curb Your Enthusiasm and doing stand-up. When I do things that I'm paid as an actor for, I'm limited by the writing, the situation. A mainstream sitcom such as the Goldbergs, proud of it. Love the actors, love the writers. The crew is actually my crew when I shoot movies, okay? So I love what I'm around, but it's not creatively fulfilling for me. It's a job, to be frank. And so it's a joyful job and one that, I really enjoy and I'm honored to be part of. People love that show. But Curb and my stand-up, that's where I'm at creatively.
And Iris,
yes.
If I'll let you ask a question to Jeff. Is there anything you wanted to know during your time working
Iris
with
has
him?
had access to me, unlike you. Iris has spent quiet time with me. Iris has had lunch with me numerous times on the set.
Well,
and Iris, was I warm and welcoming to you?
Yes, you were very warm and welcoming.
That's all
Why? Are
you
there
need.
rumors otherwise?
No, that's all I need people to know.
Oh, okay.
That you come on the set
yes.
and I'm warm and welcoming.
Yes,
and
everyone was-
creatively,
yes.
I'm right there with you.
Oh, 100%.
And she's involved. Do you know what I mean? I make sure, because Larry, as much as I love for him, he can be a bit distant when he's in his head. Like you don't know what he's thinking.
Right.
He's off. And that's
But
where
we were
I come
on
in.
a ski lift together high above
Yeah, he was stuck.
for extended
So you
periods of
bonded.
time.
It's
We
hilarious.
did
But
bond.
he
We
hates
did
when I
bond.
say this, but he's a delightful man. He's lovely.
Yes.
Why do you tell people? Like he prefers that people think that he's this jerky curmudgeon, and he's not.
Well, again, that's why I think he must be so different from that. Maybe not hugely
No, he's not
different.
that different. That's
But
part
he
of
is
him.
motivating everybody to be their best, which you
Right.
don't necessarily get the sense
Right.
from that
Yes.
character
And by
on the
the
show.
way, when I make comedic choices and he likes them, he is so generous. He laughs hard. Be like, oh, do that again. Oh my God, And so, no, he's a fucking
amazing.
delight. Yeah, I love that guy.
So I just want to mention again also your book, Curbing It.
Yeah, there's two versions. There's Curbing It, which was the second one, and My Footprint, which is the hardcover. Now, I called the book originally My Footprint. Then they said, we want to put it out as a paperback, but you got to have curb in the title. And so it was about losing weight and trying to go green while making curb during the Seinfeld season. There's a lot of great stuff about the Seinfeld season.
Yeah.
And so I called it Curbing It, the second one.
It made me think, you're trying to reduce your carbon footprint. At the same time, you're trying to reduce your body fat and deal with these addictive qualities. Like, were you making the connection of kind of just reducing?
Well, I wanted to reduce my footprint. That's why it was called My Footprint. My footprint, if I lose weight, it'll be lighter. And but what I actually, if someone reads the book, there's some interesting things in the green part of it, that kind of footprint. Ed Begley is fascinating in there.
Yeah.
But that's the boring part of the book. I'd say skip those chapters if you ever read it and just read the stuff about Curb Your Enthusiasm and me losing weight, trying to lose weight, because I think that stuff's the gold.
And
again with the gold. I've never said that before.
Comedy
Suddenly
gold.
I'm on your podcast.
Do you still remember, now that you're eating differently or less, do you still remember everything you eat? Or was that kind of categorized when you were eating more and there was
I still remember healthy choices, but not like I'll remember a day eating a bunch of Twizzlers and why I ate the Twizzlers, how I ate the Twizzlers, my feeling after I ate the Twizzlers.
It's like a mnemonic almost. It helps you kind of
it was like I was through it, I was like, I was very present with my addiction.
And there was a weird kind of fun that often the other cast or other people you knew were having with you, which is trying to basically expose you to food as much as possible.
No, only Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
He's if there's a villain in that book, it's him. Hey, Garlin, do you smell the pizza? There'll be pizza. What are you going to do? That pizza smells so good. It's like, come on, man. Like Julia would go, look at you with the salad, big salad every day. She was so impressed and so supportive. No, it was Jerry.
Well, the book Curbing It.
And by the way, if you ever can find the audio book of that, by the way, I don't even think it's in print anymore, the book. If you're finding
No, I just bought it. I bought it a week ago.
Oh, look at you and your good looks. The audio book is me reading it, but Dave Mandel had this idea of an audio book of as read by the author as told to. So my audiobook is as read by the author as told to Leonard Nimoy. Through J.J. Abrams, my friend J.J. Abrams, who had worked with him, I got Leonard Nimoy to come into the studio, and I recorded him doing all these different reactions. So the book is
amazing.
As read by me as told to Leonard Nimoy. It never caught on with the press. Someone should do a reissue of it. I think it's pretty great.
I got to get that. And then I love the name drop of J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
Any word on Star Wars? They should have put you on Star Wars.
I was in it.
You were in it?
Yeah.
What were you?
But I cannot talk about what I was, but I was an alien. That's all I can tell you. I went through 4 hours of makeup. The movie comes out maybe next Christmas.
I look
and they
like
just
someone who
announced stuff
follows
in
the
Chicago.
schedule.
I just missed them. They're coming here this weekend. I might see them. But and I'll get to see, here's the thing that Star Wars people would be jealous of. Whenever JJ makes a movie, I see his early cuts. Like he wants notes. He's like, what do you think? What's tracking? And even I remember my son Duke, the first Star Trek movie that JJ did. Duke was he's 19 now, however long ago that was. I brought him, and he was literally the only kid. He was the first kid who saw this Star Trek movie. So JJ had lots of questions for him, just in terms of what's tracking.
So you'll see a rough cut of the next Star Wars?
It won't be. It'll be along the way. It'll probably be, but I'll see an early cut of Star Wars. What I like, and I hope that he does, is he shows me the cut when he's feeling great about it, and he doesn't want to do any more changes. I remember Super 8, I gave him a note, and he actually did a reshoot at Bad Robot of this moment that wasn't tracking. And I was so proud. JJ, come on! I was like so shocked and honored that he,
Oh my God.
And by the way, another guy, best guy ever. The most successful people in Hollywood, for the most part, delightful. Very delightful. It's the unsuccessful ones that are assholes. They're bitter and they should have You know what? I actually tell people, and this maybe has a lot to do with your podcast, and this might be a good way to close. I have a thing, and I talk about it in my stand-up. Don't follow your dreams. I feel that. Unless your dreams are what you're great at. Do what you're great at and let your dream be your hobby. Because there are so many people failing, and I'll just use Iris R thing.
I'm like, wait.
No. Well, by the way, no, there are so many people. Iris has a successful career. She's great. But because she's doing what she's great at, okay? But there are so many people who do, I was going to use you, who do what we do, who are good. Oh, they're good. Oh, he's a good actor. She's a good singer, you know. Good is not good enough. You got to be great, at least to have a career. You can't be good and have a career. You can be good and get occasional work, but you got to be great. So it's much better if you live in St. Louis and you're a good singer and you're like, do I move to New York to pursue my singing career? But you're great at math. I say stay in St. Louis or live wherever you want. Become a successful accountant, and with all the money you make from being an accountant, buy some recording time, make some music, give it to your friends, and then, of course, let your friends tell you that you made the right decision.
So that's how. So that's
Thank you. As opposed to going to New York, being depressed, not making it, thinking, do I have to quit? And by the way, I think I'm pretty funny. I almost quit a couple of times.
But don't you feel like it's a meritocracy? Because I sometimes see very successful, mediocre people, and that drives me insane.
No, I by the way, I disagree.
Really?
Yep. There's no such thing as a very successful, mediocre person. Because I can point to those people and go, they're charismatic. Like they're not a good actor, but their charisma helps them. Something about them, even their people skills to get in those situations,
fair enough. Okay.
They excel at. So are they really successful? If they're really successful, then their work is admired. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So yes, maybe they get a part because of they're good bullshitters or whatever. That's what they're good at. So they're using that skill to get ahead. But I don't know anyone who's mediocre who even anyone admires.
I guess not media. I mean, that specific talent. Like you're seeing a performance of someone on Broadway and you're like, Do you know what I mean? I'm just...
they're good, but are they going to do 2, 3, 10 shows where they're the lead?
Right.
No.
Right. Okay.
They're going to get away with it once or twice, and then someone's going to go, I saw them in that. They weren't very good. And suddenly, career's over.
How do you avoid smoking crack on it? Because like even you said, you had doubts. Smoking crack meaning like... The woman thinks she's a great singer, and there's even a effect. You always think you're greater than you are.
And by the way, those people are always so confused that they haven't made it. I know comedians who come off stage, and it was a mediocre show at best. I remember this more from my younger days, and they come off thinking that they killed. That's a flaw in your personality. That's a flaw in the way your brain mechanism. It's like face blindness, career blindness. You don't really see what's going on. But those people don't become successful.
But what kept you going when you thought of quitting?
Because I had nothing to fall back on. I dropped out of school. My dad always used to say, have something to fall back on. If I had something to fall back on and I kind of liked it, I might have fallen back on it. It's true. And then when I had children, I was broke when I had my first child. And so I was like, I'll give myself a year because I have to take care of this kid. And then within a year, I had a development deal and things were, but I just kept doing what I'm doing. That's the point. The point is, if you inherently know that you have it, don't let anyone stop you. Adversity is your best friend. It makes you better as a person and as an artist.
Jeff Garlin, thank you for coming also on
My
Iris
pleasure.
Bar. Jeff, thanks so much. Good luck with season 10.
Here's the thing that I feel bad.
Keep going.
No, here's the thing I feel bad for your listeners in this way. They don't get to see that hair. No, they don't get to see that hair. That hair is just something to just, dear God, man, look at you. Look at you.
It's probably the only way I look at the rest of me. It's probably the only way I meet women.
Well, by the way, you met a woman who digs that hair. Look at you. However it is, you. By the way, you're a delightful man, and I think with the hair. See, look. I think that there are women that truly do dig me. I'm a certain flavor, a certain thing, and I think I'm a unique flavor and a unique thing, such as yourself. And I just wish your listeners knew the joy, because it would bring them joy.
Well, okay, how do I get over my jealousy of the fact that you're going to see Star Wars before I do?
Here's the sadder part. I'm not that big a Star Wars fan.
You're killing me.
No, I know. But here's the thing that I love about it. I liked the first couple, like Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars. I really loved Empire Strikes Back. And then I saw all of them. But like I see all the Marvel movies, but it's like yawn. And then, but JJ is so great at this and has such a deft touch that as a film fan, I look forward to seeing what he does with it. And it's the last one of this story. Yeah. And so I know at worst, it'll be very, very, very good. That's the worst. I'm hoping for better, but in his hands, it's going to be great.
Well, good luck with Curb.
Oh, and your jealousy?
2010.
Stop being jealous of anyone.
All right.
Because you got
listen.
it. You and that face and that mind and that hair and the sense of style. You got it going.
Should I leave the room? I leave you two alone? I don't know.
I have no desire to make out with him. But that being said, you got it. And Iris, you got it too.
Thank you so much.
Iris is a rocker. Iris is a great improviser, great actress, great person. She's just a fucking rocker.
Thank you.
Well,
I love you too,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you both. And thanks.
Okay.
All right. I know I kept you over time.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.